Hello, everyone. Welcome to Global Express. I'm Neena Gopal. This is the weekly interaction with experts where we deconstruct developments in our backyard, our immediate neighborhood, and beyond. Do click on the new Indian Express website and tweet and follow Global Express. Now, if it wasn't for geospatial intelligence, none of this would even be in the public domain. But unveiling the dragon's footprint today is Dr. Y. Nithiyanandam of Takshasila Institution, who has tracked Chinese intrusions up to 9 kilometers inside Bhutanese territory along the MOCHU River in the Doklam Plateau. Bordered by Sikkim and a string of mountain peaks, it's a de facto occupation of Bhutanese territory, say many experts. And given the recent talks between Thimpu and Beijing, China's construction activity at the Doklam tri-junction and the threat it poses, potential threat, I should correct that, it poses to India's Siliguri corridor should be a matter of some concern in Delhi. Dr. Nithiyanandam is head of the Geospatial Research Program at Takshasila Institution. He has a doctorate in remote sensing. His mastery of geo-intelligence and satellite imagery makes him unique in this field. Welcome, Professor. And welcome, General Satish Nair and Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh. Both of you have served in the area and know it like the back of your hand, and you understand the back and forth and the push and shove between the Chinese and the Indians, troops that are posted there from the 70s onwards. Thank you very much for joining us, General Satish Nair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh, for joining us as well. Let's start with your presentation. Dr. Nithiyanandam, and as it's going to be the eye opener, so that we can actually see what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, I want to start by giving an overview of where we are discussing and what was our study focused on. And if you can see this map is about the actual Chinese area, Chinese territory and the Chinese claim. The dotted red line that you can see along the Jompheri Ridge is the claim of China. But in fact, we can see there have been more and more intrusions along this line on the MOCHU River. Now, this is from the previous work studied at Takshasila Institution in order to give where the Doklam Plateau is located. The area that we are looking at here is the Doklam Plateau, which is surrounded by Mount Kimochin, Dokela, Merugla, Sinchela.
So this is the actual territory, Professor, where versus the People's Liberation Army's claim.
Yes, this is the yellow is actual territory versus the PLA's claim. The dotted red ones are the PLA's claim.
Okay. Could you give us an overview of your recent article about Doklam and give us a summary of the key findings? Why is as we call it, the dragon's footprint in Doklam so significant now?
Yeah. So we called it, whatever we have looked at in this research as plotted here, we identified around 16 sites in this total area have some changes in terms of military presence. The new roads are constructed, new roads are being constructed, and military structures are being created in 16 sites along this area. Now, if you can see these green dots here, each of that represents the particular area that we have identified. And we have studied it with respect to 4 images, let's say images from 2017, the satellite images of 2017, satellite images of 2019, satellite images of 2021, and satellite images of January 2023. Whatever we have studied until January 2023. There is a possibility there could be more additions on this whole area. Now, this is another.
Are you also going to tell us about you've mentioned these categories one by one. Are you going to take us through what is the military and what is the civilian?
Yes. So this is an area where this is a map to show in 3 dimensions to locate where are our features, where are the sites exist. And you can see some of the sites are in the leeward side of the mountain, some are on the plateau itself, closer to the three country point. Now, from here, if you can see, the Siliguri corridor is somewhere here. So now I will take you through the sites. Before I explain each of the sites, which I categorized into three ways, I made a short video to showcase where those developments are, what kind of developments we are talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is where the Jamferi Ridge exists. And this is about, while moving in, what we have looked at the sites starting from here. This is the standoff point where we had a standoff. And the sites are noted from here. But if you can see, this is a three country point that we can make sure this is the ideal three country point where you have India on this side, Bhutan on this side, and China on this side is an ideal situation. Whereas you can see the dragon footprint all over. So we have not taken anything here. The developments happened here in account. But then the first site I considered is somewhere in this area. If you look at the site one and site two, you can see this is a newly established site on top of the hill. Site one, site three, site four, or the sites which does not have much of changes over a period of time. So these are the sites since 2017 remains almost same without much of changes. Whereas if you see other sites, I will show you now sites five over here on the leeward side of the mountain, where the construction activity is just begun. Site five, site seven, and site eight, you can say these are the sites which are coming up, and the changes happen, especially sites six and seven. You can see the changes happen after 2017. Site six is another site.
Just for a clarification to the viewer who's only looking at a mountain and the white lines, which probably are the built up areas that the Chinese have built. What is that? Where is it in relation to India and Bhutan?
So, yeah, I'll get back to that. If you can allow me, I'll quickly run this
Yeah, yeah,
first.
sure.
Yeah, because the site number 9 onwards is very crucial. If you look at it,
Uh-huh.
these are closer to the Bhutanese side, close to the MOCHU River, but you can see this development. This is the high altitude fueling station we were talking about
Oh,
in the report.
oh,
And it is on
oh.
the, like a cup-shaped area where earlier it
Hmm.
was something else. It was just a firing range, and now you can see it was converted. But some areas like the helipads over this area are new. But most important to see is like site number 12, which has come more
Mm-hmm.
recently, which
Mm-hmm.
is again can able to give, if you're talking about the view to this Siliguri corridor, that can be accessed from there. But the
Mm.
another point to note is site number 13 and 14, where you can see there are pretty much military barracks here and the huge military infrastructure here, which we
Yes.
suspected it as a ammunition dump. So these are on the other
Uh-huh.
side of the mountain, closer to the MOCHU River. And site 15 is on the Chinese territory itself. And the last sites that we have discussed is on the MOCHU River, where we
The
will be
Mochu River
discussing it.
runs through Bhutan.
Yes, yes. So these are the developments inside the MOCHU River. Yes. Now I'll go back to that original
So, what is the
slideshow
inference
of.
that you have? What is the inference that we must draw from these images?
So the quick inference that we can draw from this by looking at a timeline since 2017, because our study was aimed to look at the changes which are happened steadily after 2017. What we can see is the sites which are closer to the standoff point or the closer to the tri-junction points, it has not undergone much of changes. Whereas the sites which are a little inside or which is closer to the MOCHU River, those are the sites which got the major infrastructure. So the major infrastructure, in a sense, there are many new structures which are established there, and that appears to be the more and more activity, not very close to the conference site, but then little inside the that zone. So that could help, and people can commute possibly from the MOCHU River and adjacent Medong counties as well, because the road networks are pretty clear and established, and the villages which has the shelters over there could be used as a dual facility as well.
So it's basically both military and civilian.
Yeah.
And you've also talked about the fact that there's a that a lot of the developments along the river pose a threat to the Siliguri corridor because it gives you access to the Doklam Plateau.
Yeah. So you're talking about MOCHU River, right? Can you please repeat
Yeah.
your question? I think yeah.
No,
So
I mean the MOCHU River is the one where you've actually talked about civilian settlements and
yes.
or military settlements along the MOCHU River on the side that is where the Chinese are, right?
Yes. So the MOCHU River, MOCHU River has few settlements, since these are the
Mm.
sites which I've classified earlier in different categories based on the developments happened there. So this is about the MOCHU River where
Yeah.
we can see settlements. Yes, but the discussion is around, like, people has been saying that if they capture MOCHU River, if they introduce more into MOCHU River, there is a possibility that it can give access to the standoff point. But when we look at our elevation in the first imagery, it is very difficult to access from a difference of 1,000 meters plus from the MOCHU River to that actual standoff point. So,
But
but it could.
the fact is, Professor Nithiyanandam, these are dual purpose developments, right? I mean, these are both military and civilian. So, your team has seen a significant rise in the presence of the People's Liberation Army in that area.
Yeah. So I missed the point. So can you repeat
No,
it again?
I said this dual purpose habitation that has come up on the Mochu River
Yeah.
is one aspect of it, which basically shows you that the Chinese have uh, trebled their presence in an area where they've had a very small presence in the past.
Yeah, because this area is the villages, the Panga village especially, is claimed as a permanent settlement by a Chinese minister also. He has said now we have moved in people in Panga village. But when we look at it, it is very difficult to infer from satellite imageries whether these are residential villages or for military purpose being used. But one thing we can say is when we look at the classical border villages or border towns of uh, Chinese territories, those are in a different nature with a lot of other infrastructure. Where I can see here, it is more of specific settlements where some cars are even parked, which are identified by other researchers in the past as well. But it is very unclear whether the people are living there, whether they are engaged in some activities there which could support their livelihood and so on. That is unclear from the satellite imagery.
Okay, and I will come back to you on one more point before I go to the generals. Could you tell us about the actual ingress into Bhutanese territory? Does your map actually show that?
So this is especially along the Mochu River on the western side of the river is occupied by the new Chinese villages, and especially around 30 kilometers from here we have another place where it is marked already as a disputed territory between Bhutan and China, and that area has again though it is marked as a disputed territory, we can see there are plenty of structures which are built, which could potentially host a few hundred people there. So these are the developments I can see, which is occupied on the Bhutanese territory. I can show you those
Is that
images.
called? Yes, please do show it to us. Is it called the Chumbi Valley?
Sorry?
Is that the Chumbi Valley?
Yes, that is closer to the Chumbi Valley. That is on the northeastern part of Chumbi Valley. You can say around 30 kilometers from the standoff point and approximately 140 kilometers from the Siliguri corridor. That is located
So,
at an elevation of 5,000 plus meters.
and even these areas are regularly patrolled by the Chinese. It's described, you say, as a disputed area
Yes.
in
So,
UN geospatial
yes,
maps.
yes. So I can show you this. If you can see this, the standoff, in the developments we have looked at, the changes we have looked at, those are here. And I'm
That
talking
the
about somewhere
red dotted
2000.
line shows the Chumbi
Yes,
Valley.
yes,
Sorry.
yes.
Okay.
And you can see in a US database, in a geospatial database, it is marked as Dramana hyphen Shakota
Krakatoa.
disputed area. You can see here.
Mm,
So
mm, mm.
in that disputed area, these things are emerged right in 2021, 2022 itself. In 2022, especially within a span of 1 year, we can see all these developments have come up, which previously there was news about this area, the villages under this small area, small piece of land. But the news is all about there is a Chinese patrolling in this area, which is predominant, but there is no sign of civilian movements or activities in this. However, we can see this within a small pocket, we have seen developments in these three areas. You can see here, which are the structures are closely put up and elevated without much of recreational facilities in a small valley,
All
where
right.
you can see additional structures as well. Now, the tricky thing is these are something like not on top of a mountain like we have seen in Doklam area, where these are all hidden within the valleys in between the elevated mountains.
That's very interesting. So basically, it's been sort of amalgamated with the topography and the
Yeah, yeah,
greenery there. So
yes.
if I can bring in General Satish Nair, you served there in '78. You say, what was it like at that point in time? Did you actually did you have an eyeball to eyeball with the Chinese, or were they virtually non-existent? What was it like, General? If you could tell us, you headed the a battalion there as well, right?
Yeah, just to place the record correctly, I was a company commander at Dokola in 1977, and it was a very dormant sector at that time. There was hardly any Chinese activity, and there used to be occasionally, during the summer season, occasionally saw the graziers. And this particular area, there was absolutely no Chinese activity. However, during the time when the integration of Sikkim took place with India, at that time there was a minor buildup by the Chinese. And that is a time when we occupied Gamachal, which wasn't occupied till then. Now, in addition to this, as far as the Chinese presence in the Chumbi Valley is concerned, there was a fair amount of Chinese opposite two passes. One is Jalapla and one is Nathula. But barring that, the visibility of the Chinese was very, very minimal.
That's very interesting. Uh, General Singh, if I could bring you in, we can see how they have transformed those sites which Professor Nithiyanandam has shown us, how they've gone from trenches to artillery positions on a mountain slope to monitoring posts and, ammunition dumps, even secret underground vaults and so on. Does that, I mean, what was it like? I mean, Nityanand hasn't explained one thing which I found quite fascinating in his report, which is about a forward area refueling and rearming point. And before 2017, the military activity wasn't as hectic as it is now. What did you see when you were there and when you oversaw the area?
Well, Nina, as far as this particular area is concerned, I have had a fairly long experience as a company commander, then as a colonel, then as a brigadier, and then finally as the chief of staff of Eastern Command. So I have seen this area.
That's better.
So I have seen this area grow from, you can say, from 1983 to 2017, because I was kind of handling the Doklam issue when that happened, or I would say
Mm,
the Dokala issue when that happened. We were
that's
in the
right.
we were in the middle of it, and what we did thereafter and how the Chinese have reacted uh, is, is
So
kind of
please talk to us about it. Tell us about it.
so what I'll tell you is that as far as the development, as far as the Chinese presence in this area is concerned, the Chinese used to hold the passes, and rest of the areas they used to develop roads, right? and they had some minimal field fortifications for ammunition bunkers, etc., and some gun position. But when Doklam happened, it appears that now they have started undertaking a forward positioning. What it means is that earlier we had kind of a throughout the line, we were holding the entire area from you can say Yakla. There is a pass further up from Chola to Dokala. All this area was being heavily held by, as far as Indians were concerned. They had deployments in terms of some companies, some platoons, vantage points from where they could observe our area. But they continued making infrastructure, and Dokala was one of the triggering points. They were making road up to the standoff point, which Nitya has been referring to all the time. Now, to understand why India reacted seriously to that, we need to understand that the perception of the boundaries of the two sides are different. The Merugla area is the tri-junction, and Emochin is also a tri-junction. As far as we are concerned, the tri-junction is in the area of Merugla, Batangla, that ridge line, which is
Uh-huh.
further to the north, right? Gemochin is further to the south, and it is the most highest point in that area. And if that is captured, let me tell you, it will become very difficult for India to actually sustain the defenses. It will turn our flanks, and plus Siliguri corridor would be under threat. So it was a strategic threat as far as we were concerned. We didn't want the road to be going up to Gemochin. They were trying to make
Hmm.
the road from the standoff point up to Gemochin. There was a road already existing up to that point. So they got their construction material, came up to that place, and they wanted to go ahead. You will be happy to note that we did not allow even 100 meters beyond that, because we moved in and we placed our own dozers in front of them, and thereafter there was a standoff. We call it as धक्का मुक्की wrestling matches होते हैं. They had 200
Yeah,
guys,
I saw those.
200 guys on their side, 200 guys on our side. It was everyday affair for 2 months. We continued like this, and finally they agreed to withdraw. We had held talks, and so what they are doing, what Nitya is saying, is that they are now adopting a forward posture, especially in critical areas. That is point
Yes.
number.
From the time of that Doklam clash,
Correct. Earlier in
the
Doklam, they had
Dokala clash, as you
Dokala.
corrected us.
Yeah, earlier in Dokala area, on the upper reaches, they had a platoon. Now they are almost built it to our two odd companies. That means they're trying to make a battalion worth deploy in the rear of this area, leeward side, what he was mentioning. Because you can't make shelters in front. We will shoot them out during if there is a conflict. So all the leeward side things are your gun positions, your important ammunition bunkers, your FARP, what we call it as fuel, arming, and replenishment area, right? So it has both. Helicopters can land there, get their arms and ammunition loaded, for any strikes if they want to do. That's why they have built a number of heliports there. If you see in the imagery, there are about, I think, 4 or 5, if I'm not wrong. I think there are 4 of them. Similar. So these are all forward bases for refueling their and rearming their helicopters, which is a normal drill. Even we also make it. So they are trying to match our preparedness. We were already
I
prepared in
see.
this area. That is why when the standoff happened, we had a reaction within. I mean, I don't want to name the time out here for classification purposes. We were well prepared to react and reach to them. For us, the criticality is a ridge which is beyond this standoff point, which Nitya would have shown you. There's a
Jamperi Ridge.
Jamferi, and there is a Nala in between, Torsa Nala. So,
Yeah, the Horsa Nala. Yes,
so
Torsa Nala. Yes.
Bhutan government told us, there was the agreement, mutual understanding.
No, I'd like Nityanandan to actually explain, Professor Nityanandan, if you can explain that Torsa Nala and the Jamperi Ridge, that would be very interesting because then, because then the location of the Chinese,
Yeah.
You,
uh,
you, you, you get the
So,
imagery,
that's it. That's the visual.
you get the imagery, and I'll
so
explain to you. You get
yes,
the
yes.
imagery, I'll
So
explain the area.
this is yes. There are two imageries I want to show you, sir.
Okay.
Fine. Yeah, these are the developments I classified. I'll go back to that. Just allow me a minute.
Just show the imagery, uh,
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
the
So
bigger one.
this is rotate. This is the one.
Yeah, see. Now, if you see this map, there is a you see a red line, and on the red line, Jump Ferry Ridge is written. And to the left of it, as you look at it, 14,518 feet is Gemochin. Gemochin is the highest feature of this area. We are holding it, as General Nair said, way back after Sikkim was amalgamated as part of India. They wanted to build a road from the stand-off point up to Gemochin. That is where Dokala is written. From there to Gemochin, that would have given them access to Jampheri Ridge. Once Jampheri Ridge is captured, then it is all rolling down to the Siliguri corridor. Jaldhaka Siliguri corridor. This is, you can say, for us a red line. We will do anything possible to push back the Chinese. We will not allow them to come up to Jamphari Ridge for reason, although it is in Bhutanese territory, but it is critical to India more than Bhutan. That is one issue. So what they have done is they realized that there would be a tough opposition from Jampheri Ridge. They are now extending southwards. That is Amochu. What Nitya is saying, Mochu. The actual name is Amochu in our maps, and generally that river is called Amochu River. So they are trying to.
Mhm.
Hello, yeah. You said somebody said
Yeah.
something. Yeah,
No,
it's
no, no. Go ahead.
that the name of that river actually is Amochu. Amo Amochu. Now
Okay.
they are expanding towards Bhutanese side, right? Because as the Chumbi Valley, if you go to the first map, the bigger map where Chumbi Valley and other things are no, not this one, the sketch wala.
The one which has the red dots on the Chumbi Valley.
No, sketch wala. The one with India, Bhutan, everything is there in that. No,
What are you talking
This
about?
one.
no,
Is this
no,
the one?
no. You had shown one map where Bhutan, this one, yeah. Now what they're doing is they are going eastwards, right? Panga Village and eastwards. They want to widen this narrow Chumbi Valley, which is south, down south. Yeah, that is the area they want to make it wider. Because unless they make it wider, they cannot launch any operation on us unless they capture Jampheri Ridge. So Jampheri Ridge has become a no-go, kind of a no-go for them. So they are trying to expand towards Bhutan because Bhutan is easier for them to, browbeat them.
Gobble up.
Browbeat them, it's a easy target as far as they are concerned. So if they make this area wider, then they will be able to come down south to the Siliguri corridor, which is where India is written. Somewhere around that area, they will be able to emerge using the Bhutanese territory and not the Indian territory. So that is the criticality now of the development, which Nitya has showed that they are expanding toward the Bhutanese side. There are other issues which I will not like to cover because those are classified and we should keep it as that. Uh, I can
What a
only
pity.
I can only tell you that we are prepared for that also, right?
Ah.
We are prepared for that also. But the only thing is, it is a matter of concern for us because if they start gaining space in Chumbi Valley, then they'll be able to deploy more and more troops. And till the time peace holds, we cannot really intercept them or interrupt them. So at the time of war,
Hmm.
they would have a larger presence here. That is an area of worry as far as we are concerned. So strategically, they are trying to expand the Chumbi Valley, get a wider space, get more troops to deploy, and hence all these infrastructure of FARP, and we call it as FARP fueling area, which we are talking about. It is known as FARP
Hmm.
and ammunition bunkers and
That's forward area refuel and rearm
yeah, and
point.
This one.
rearming point. Yeah, that's right. The as far as the village is concerned, which Amochu mein banaya hai, what they are showing, actually, there it's part of their new policy of Siakong villages. Border villages concept which has come up very recently. They are building it all across the Arunachal and our boundaries. So the reason is that they will try to settle the civilians, and in the middle of these civilians, most of these civilians would be possibly military guys given incentive to settle here. They can also then subsequently use these areas for build-up of their own military forces subsequently if they want to do it.
So, in other words, General Singh, what they're doing is they're presenting the world with the fait accompli. So they're basically saying that this is our Chinese territory where our Chinese villagers live and
Correct.
have lived for some time. That's what they're doing. General Nair, would you like to comment on that? Is that something that the tactic that you've seen there, that you see as keep this map? I think this map is very interesting. General Nair?
Yes. Nina, I just want to add on to what General Dushan said. This is a matter of great concern for us for the simple reason that while we are well fortified and holding our defenses in strength, the eastern flank is vulnerable. Now, Bhutan has got its own limitations, both politically, economically, and size-wise and population-wise. So
Absolutely.
there's hardly any defenses on the Bhutanese side,
Correct.
and therefore the Chinese can exploit that weakness. And like General Dushan said, they'll turn our defenses. And therefore, this is something that we have got to cater for. And I'm sure at the correct and appropriate levels, this issue has been taken up with Bhutan. And the Chinese, ever since they have grown economically and as a military power, they have been showing very aggressive signs, which wasn't there in the past. And this is the time to check them. And if you don't take action now, it may be a little too late.
I think we may be a step behind because I mean Bhutan recently had talks in China. We had the Bhutanese Foreign Minister Tandi Dorji visiting China in October, and he became the first Bhutanese official to visit China. Although it was supposedly the 25th round of talks on the border. So the Chinese are pushing for border talks. It's obviously China prodding Bhutan to accept that the land along the MOCHU River is theirs, and the Chumbi Valley and the Chinese ingress there is very interesting as well. And just a couple of, just on the beginning of November, we also had a visit by the king, I mean, I don't know what pressure King Jigme Kesar Mangyal Wangchuk must be under. Uh,
Nina,
General
Nina,
Singh?
Nina, I want to add two more things which are critical for India. See, I told
Yeah.
you the Chinese are looking for space in Chumbi Valley. Chumbi Valley is like a pointed thing jutting into the
Arrow.
jutting between India and Bhutan. Now this is too narrow for any major deployment, so they really can't undertake any major operation. That's their biggest worry as far as the Chinese are concerned. They are also negotiating with the Bhutanese, and which India is opposing tooth and nail for our own safety. That they want to exchange the area which is now you call it as Dokala area, the
Hmm.
encroachment in the Dokala area with the encroachment which the Chinese have done in the north, which is in the area of Chagduzum, or they also call it as Biul. Now they are almost they are saying that we will give you Biul, you give us the area of the standoff point area, which where a lot of these constructions are made. You please give it to us up to Jamferi. That will become a problem for us, right? Yeah, this area. So this is
And
the
and
so
that's
what
it. Yes.
happens? So what
Thank you,
happens is
Nitya.
yeah. So what happens is they are expanding the yeah, they're trying to expand through negotiations with Bhutan towards the west, and towards the east they are forcing their way through the Bhutanese, because as General Nair said, the Bhutanese have their limitations in terms of their defense capabilities. They don't even have no major fortifications. Plus, their armed forces are very limited as part of their policy, whatever they have made.
So
So
would it be a huge trigger point, so to speak, if India put boots on the ground in Bhutan?
look, again, that's an area which is not should not be discussed here. There are some agreements, some arrangements there. Suffice it to say that there are agreements there in place, and whenever that comes up, we will see what happens. Bhutan is now become a independent, democratic country. It has not included India in its talks. Earlier, what was happening was whenever there was a talk between Bhutan and China, Indian rep was also there. But of late, Indian rep has been excluded. That is a kind of a worry for us, because then we were able to assure that our interests were not compromised. However, the king has confirmed, as far as latest visit is concerned, that the India will be always consulted whenever they have a border agreement with China, and Indian interest will be taken into consideration. Right?
General Nair, when you served there, did you were you there when Sikkim was assimilated into India?
Very much so. And in fact, it was my company which occupied Gamichin.
Uh-huh.
So we were involved in that operation
Wow.
or the exercise of occupying Gamichin with nothing. We had nothing. It is overnight. We are told just go and occupy Gamichin. So I mean, but my memories of more than 40 years back, and but there was no Chinese activity at that time. I just want to add on to what General Dushan said. This Chumbi Valley, it's like a dagger pointing into India. And like he said,
That's
that
right.
they cannot progress operations. Now, what they are looking for is depth. Now, while they cannot, they would prefer to come into the western side, which is India. They cannot do that because we are well fortified in that area. So the easiest way of doing it is going further east into Bhutan, which is not held. And secondly, Bhutan is also politically not a very strong country, so it's easier for them to do that. And it is very critical for us to have some sort of. There is already a Indo-Bhutan friendship treaty in place, but how effective and potent it is, I cannot really say. But it is important to take the Bhutanese on board and ensure that the Chinese don't make any further progress into towards the Siliguri corridor.
Yeah, the negotiations between Bhutan and China, as you say, is about the very clearly, General Singh, clearly about land, swap. But if Bhutan gives up the Doklam Plateau, and the MOCHU River and the Chumbi Valley in exchange for the occupied area and its northern part, I mean, this could become one of India's biggest challenges in 2024.
Definitely, definitely. And that is one of it's kind of a red line for us. We are not going to give up this area at any cost. Why I'm saying we means India and Bhutan both. And luckily for us, the king still remains. I mean, that's the way. That's the input I have got. That the king still remains steadfastly with India on this particular issue. But in future, what may happen, we cannot say. We have to be prepared for denying this option to China, even if there is a military operation required, it has to be undertaken. And that's my personal view. The government can take any other step as per the prevailing situation at that point in time. But this is an area which, why people say chicken neck. Any neck is vulnerable.
Mm. Yes, you're right.
Our neck is also vulnerable. If somebody snipes at our neck, we're gone. So any neck, and this is really a neck, 20 kilometers. That's all.
Is that so?
And what do we have? We have railway lines on both sides of Brahmaputra. We have the roads going on both sides of the Brahmaputra. We have airports in this particular corridor. All of that will get compromised. And Northeast will be cut off. Bhutan will be cut off. Bangladesh, and if there is a collusive threat, my God, you can imagine what may happen. Of course, till now we are managing Bangladesh very well. We don't know what may happen in the next election. The elections are due in Bangladesh. I hope it doesn't go the Maldives way. So there is going to be it's a serious situation for India, and I think powers that be are looking at it very carefully.
That's very interesting. General Nair, do you have any concluding remarks on this?
No, the only thing I have to say is that the diplomatic corps will have to work overtime,
Absolutely.
and that's the only way. The military
I
will
mean,
do what it can, but it
the
has to
king
go
has
beyond that.
spoken. The king has spoken yesterday, General Nair. He has basically talked about this, the city that they want to build up, and the fact that they want investment, in that area. And so he's talking about building Bhutan into a viable economic, success story, which is basically also, I think, sort of thumbing his nose at the Chinese in a way.
I'm not too sure because you have to show certain physical actions on ground, and the very fact that Indian rep has been excluded from the negotiations with China is not really very good for us.
Uh,
That's a very interesting.
adding to that, the Prime Minister of Bhutan says that we are willing to establish a consulate. I mean, that will be something a step
Yes,
beyond. They have never had any formal arrangement with China. It has always been through India. But this going direct to China is a concern, and John Nair is right. Diplomatic corps has to be. I think it's a test for Jaishankar.
it is. So it's one of the biggest tests. If I can come back to you, Professor Nithiyanandan, do you have a map which actually tells us, how far the Chinese how fast the Chinese could deploy if they do? in that corner.
Okay, you're talking about all the developments that happened in the places in a sequential categorized manner that we missed to
Please
show,
just tell us,
or
yes.
I don't have any specific map to say how fast they can predict, but one thing I can say after investigating the 16 sites from through the satellite imagery, what is evident is they can do it in a year or two in many of the places, but the developments has increased after, especially during 2019, between 2021. And what we can see in 2023 and between 2021 and 23, not much changes are there in many of the places. So the development is not much in the Doklam Plateau after 2021. It is very minimum, except few points which is closer to Sinchela. That is on the side of MOCHU River. But this is the pace in which they are developing. But the concern is on the one which the site which I have shown, a disputed site closer to the Chumbi Valley, where the entire structure has come up in looks like less than a year. So and it has been used potentially. There was open lands earlier and all converted into those structures in a very big time.
I would like to.
Lieutenant General
I would
Duswant, I
like
was
to.
coming to you. I
I
was
would
coming
like
back to you.
I wanted to add only one thing to for the audience to understand that in the Chumbi Valley we are in a dominating position. So
Okay.
we should be happy with that aspect that we can also turn the Chinese around. I mean that much if we understand that much, and that is why he's not going in for development of the other areas. In my view, possibly he has just taken an eyeball to eyeball position in Dokala to for negotiation, like I said, exchange or swap of territory. Yet we should be careful.
And talks
That's
between
all
India and
as
China.
yeah, but as both the generals said, there's a possibility of exchanging it. There's a fear that it could be exchanged between the northern Bhutanese occupied territory versus this. That could change the situation from tri-junction to a bi-junction
Junction.
kind of. Yeah,
So the danger that China poses is the dormant, it's not an active threat, it's a dormant threat. Would that be a correct assessment?
It's a threat in being. It's not dormant. It's a potential threat. And General Nair would agree with me.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, we cannot, sit back in 1970s. It was okay to think it was dominant
Yeah,
threat. Today, it's a threat in being. It's an active threat, and we have to consider it. We cannot ignore it. I mean, I put it simply.
yeah, absolutely.
What can we do, General Nair, since General Singh is not telling us what we could do?
No, you see, we have to get the Bhutanese on board. Like I told you, on the Indian side, we are very strong, and that's why they have not even in Doklam they actually withdrew. And we have to get the Bhutanese on board. But you see, the Bhutanese have also got their own problems. The thing of sovereignty and things. You are asking about Indian boots on Bhutanese soil. They will not permit that. So some sort of solution via media has to be found, and we have to ensure that the Chinese don't progress any further.
That's a
And
good point.
I told you that I didn't say that we are. I'm not telling anything. I said that we are prepared to deal with them. But how to deal with them is something which I think that should be left to the military people. There are plans for such an eventuality. That should be good enough to say that we are not in a weak position as far as this area is concerned. Concern is Bhutan, which even General Nair has been raising again and again. And so for Bhutan, we need to be doing our diplomatic job well, and militarily, of course, would become a subsequent issue.
So that's very interesting. I think we've run out of time, but I think the dragon's footprint that is all over Doklam at the moment, or Dokala, as General Singh says we should call it, not give it the Chinese name, is definitely a threat that India will have to, tackle and possibly, put China back into push back as much as possible, or at least build up our fortifications so there is no more ingress into our territory.
Yeah,
Bhutan is building a second airport. It's not just one airport; it's building a second airport, which it's basically to boost Bhutanese tourism, and its own economy, but it will also provide China, if and when if God forbid it invades Bhutan, with a perfect, landing strip.
I
Uh,
don't know which location. When I was
yeah,
there was just one airstrip, which was Paro, and I don't think
Yeah,
that they developed it any further. But at that
they're
time,
adding another one.
it is still
Air Force really couldn't use it for any major
yeah,
build-up because it was a very short strip.
absolutely.
And the new one, if I'm not wrong, is coming much closer to the Indian border.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
So in any case, sir, the Paro airfield cannot take the bigger aircraft. So there is, it's okay. It's a short airfield where the smaller aircraft land
More
regularly.
for tourists, that's
Yeah,
about all.
I have landed on that. So it's not that much of a threat as far as we are concerned. It should not be. Yeah, if they make a bigger one, then it's a
Thank you very much,
yeah.
Professor Nithiyanandan, for those fascinating maps exclusive to Takshashila, and now that you've shared it with us. Thank you, General Satish Nair, and thank you, Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh, for those very perceptive comments.
Thank you.
Please, please click on the New Indian Express web edition and the Global Express icon to watch the show. Do retweet and share on social media.